Albo, it's time to Dan up. It's time to do a Dan. It was hilarious over the weekend because there was a by-election in Dan Andrews' old seat, the Premier of Victoria, who bowed out, triumphant, still on a high in the polls when he left suddenly as Victorian Premier. Anyway, they had the by-election and Labor won strongly, comfortably, although the political drift away from the two major parties continued. But it was an emphatic win and basically showed, one, how hopeless the coalition is in Victoria and generally, but also that Dan Andrews is something of a political phenomenon. Now, we don't think of Dan as some sort of political superhuman like a lot of his most ardent supporters do, but what we did particularly like about Dan was that he just gave the bird to the Murdoch press. He just said, I don't care. I'm not going to let you guys middleman me, filter me. I'm going to go straight to the people. I'm going to go straight to social media. He even cut their advertising. So the press was naturally very disappointed. And the most vocal of all, of course, was Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, the Australian, particularly the Herald Sun, which has been burning readers going to nothing in circulation terms. In Melbourne, it used to be about 600,000 copies a day or something like that. It'd be barely half that now. And I don't know who would pay for it. Maybe people that like the form guide or something digitally, why you would need to buy it online, maybe to read Andrew Bolt and Rita Panahai. In any case, Albo you need to do a Dan. You need to bypass the Murdoch media. You don't need them. He bowed out on a political high and he never grovelled once. If you keep grovelling to these people, they will nail you every day. They do it anyway. You don't owe them any favours. You know they're going to back Dutton to the hilt. And it's going to happen more subtly in the 7 network, Kerry Stokes' media, and in the 9 network controlled by former Liberal Party Treasurer Peter Costello and his various editorial soldados. So you're on hiding to nothing. You don't need the mainstream media. But here you are, here you and your treasurer, Jim Chalmers, are serving them up free op-eds, free editorials saying, here, take our content, put it behind your paywall and use us to drag more audience in. Not only that, but to give you our opinions provided freely to you, our copy, our content, gives you, Murdoch Media, the imprimatur from the government. It makes the public think you're doing the right thing, that Murdoch Media is doing the right thing when it's not. Clearly, it's into race baiting, minority bashing, and kicking Labor really hard. Not that Labor is a be-all and end-all, but you're going to be called anti-Semitic, weak on terror, weak on NatSec. Anyway, that's what they will do. Hopeless on the economy every day. They will nail you and they will nail the government. There is no point crawling to them. It's time to stand up to them. And if you stand up to them, the ABC will begin to stand up to them too, and that will loosen their stranglehold on the news cycle. It's a no-brainer. But it was very funny, the Dan Andrews thing, because after the election, the Herald Sun, the Murdoch press, was so stricken with grief and hatred for Dan Andrews, still seething and simmering in their DNA, their Liberal Party DNA, that they beat up this story. And they put this story about Dan not being able to get into the Portsea Golf Club, an exclusive golf club on the Morning Peninsula. Dan's a bit of a golfer. And, Portsea members ganged up and wouldn't let Dan in. And then, of course, the useless old Channel 10 Project TV, they got the story, which was a non-story. The story proved to be wrong when the Portsea Golf Club came out and said the story's not true. But of course, the Daily Mail had jumped on it by then too. Never saw a bunch of clickbait they didn't like. And so this thing got secondary media movement. It ran in the news cycle for about 2 days. Dan getting booted out of golf clubs. Nobody wanted Dan in the golfing world in Melbourne. All these beat-ups based on a story from the Murdoch media that was not true, just a beat-up. So here they are, not even reporting above the fold properly the by-election. Instead of that, they've gone with a lie about Dan not being able to get into Portsea Golf Club. And then it's gone in other media. What kind of media do we have that follows up a fake story? The story was that Dan's successor whipped the Liberals in this by-election. So Albo, if you're listening, Sonny Jim, you're going to have to Dan up, man up, do a Dan, cut out the Murdoch press. You should have had that Royal Commission. Do the right thing and you will be the better for it. They're going to call you a terrorist sympathiser, weak on national security, anti-Semitic. They're going to call you all these things anyway. So just jump ahead of it and get on the front foot. Stand up to the bully.